Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, Lord.
As Jesus passed by, he saw a man who had been born blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "Neither he nor his parents sinned. It is so that the works of God might be made visible through him. We have to do the works of the one who sent me while it is day. For night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world." When he had said this, he spat on the ground and made clay with his saliva and smeared the clay on the eyes and said to him, "Go, wash in the pool of Siloam," which means sent. So he went and washed and came back able to see. His neighbors and those who had seen him earlier as a beggar said, "Isn't this the one who used to sit and beg?" Some said, "It is." But others said, "No, he just looks like him." He said, "I am." So they said to him, "How were your eyes opened?" He replied, "The man called Jesus made clay and anointed my eyes and told me, 'Go to Siloam and wash.' So I went there and washed and was able to see." And they said to him, "Where is he?" He said, "I do not know." They brought the one who was once blind to the Pharisees. Now Jesus had made clay and opened his eyes on the Sabbath. So then the Pharisees also asked him how he was able to see. He said to them, "He put clay on my eyes, and I washed, and now I can see." So some of the Pharisees said, "This man is not from God, because he does not keep the Sabbath." But others said, "How can a sinful man do such signs?" And there was division among them. So they said to the blind man again, "What do you have to say about him, since he opened your eyes?" He said, "He is a prophet." Now the Jews did not believe that he had been blind and gained his sight until they summoned the parents of the one who had gained his sight. And they asked them, "Is this your son, who you say was born blind? How does he now see?" His parents answered and said, "We know that this is our son, and that he was born blind. We do not know how he sees now, nor do we know who opened his eyes. Ask him. He is of age. He can speak for himself." His parents said this because they were afraid of the Jews, for the Jews had already agreed that if anyone acknowledged him as the Christ, he would be expelled from the synagogue. For this reason, his parents said, "He is of age. Ask him." So a second time they called the man who had been born blind and said to him, "Give God the praise. We know that this man is a sinner." He replied, "If he is a sinner, I do not know. One thing I do know is that I was blind and now I see." So they said to him, "What did he do to you? How did he open your eyes?" He answered them, "I told you already, and you did not listen. Why do you want to hear it again?" Do you want to become his disciples too? But they ridiculed him and said, You are that man's disciples. We are disciples of Moses. We know that God spoke to Moses, but we do not know where this one comes from. God does not listen to sinners. But if one is devout and does his will, he listens to him. It is unheard of that anyone ever opened the eyes of a person born blind. If this man were not from God, he would not be able to do anything. They answered and said to him, You were born totally in sin, and you are trying to teach us? And they threw him out. When Jesus heard that they had thrown him out, he found him and said, Do you believe in the Son of Man? He answered and said, Who is he, sir, that I may believe in him? And Jesus said to him, You have seen him. The one speaking with you is he. He said, I do believe, Lord. And he worshipped him. Then Jesus said, I came into this world for judgment, so that those who do not see might see, those who do see might become alive. Some of the Pharisees who were with him heard this, and said to him, Surely we are not also blind, are we? Jesus said to them, If you were blind, you would have no sin. But now you are saying, We see, so your sin remains.
Years ago, and we work in South America, Peru, and Ecuador. So I live at St. Stephen's Church in the north end of Boston. But I'm sure you would have figured out by now that I'm not a Bostonian. Gather, you're celebrating St. Patrick's Day here in Manchester today, so happy St. Patrick's Day. And today in Ireland is Mother's Day, so if any of you here are mothers and you're Irish, happy Mother's Day. You have two reasons to celebrate today. So we just heard from that beautiful gospel story of the man born blind. And when I was reflecting on this a few days ago, it caused me to think about a friend of mine who was born blind. Consequently, he is unable to marvel at the colours of the rainbow. He's incapable of appreciating the subtle difference between the various shades of green in the garden. He cannot enjoy the beauty of the stained glass windows in his local church as the sunlight shines through them. So in short, he cannot see the beauty of God's creation. However, my blind friend's senses, hearing, speech, touch and smell, are exceptionally alert, and they help him to compensate for his blindness by enabling him to experience and appreciate his surroundings in different ways. And yet he seems to be disadvantaged when we compare him to most other people, because unlike them, he cannot see with his eyes. And so he lives in a world of darkness, and during his life he will never truly understand what it is to be guided by the light. Thankfully, although spiritually or physically blind, my friend has learned to see in other ways. He told me that he believes in God, and for him, as it must be for all of us, believing is seeing. My friend tells me that he has seen God in many areas of his life without depending on his eyes. And having experienced God's love, he believes in God's goodness and in God's providential care. So I think we can say then that true sight is really insight. Of course, we know there's always been physical blindness in our world, but physical blindness is not the only type of blindness that affects people, nor is it the most damaging. A far more harmful blindness is the spiritual blindness that results from sin. And this spiritual blindness is evident in the lives of so many who seem to be lost or confused, often having no moral guidance. And unlike physical blindness, spiritual blindness occurs when we either refuse or are unable to accept Jesus Christ as the way, the truth, and the life. Where I come from, there's a familiar proverb that says, "There is none so blind as those who will not see." Unfortunately, many of us are spiritually blind, probably without even realizing it. So we need to learn that in recognizing our personal sinfulness, our spiritual blindness brings healing. And Jesus brings healing from sin in order to help us along our journey through life. And he brings that healing to us through his church and the sacraments, especially in the sacrament of reconciliation. And each of us is encouraged to avail of the sacrament of reconciliation, to go to confession at some stage during Lent. And when we celebrate this sacrament with proper disposition, we meet the Lord who heals us and gives us life. Then we can truly appreciate that believing is seeing. Although my friend lives in constant darkness, he has many opportunities to see as a result of his faith. Ironically, many of us who can see clearly with our eyes are increasingly blind to God's presence around us because of our lack of faith and our sin. So friends, today our liturgy challenges us to invite Jesus to heal our spiritual blindness so that we may share his insight. Then our witness to the good news will lead us to dispel the spiritual darkness in our world. And I think the most important message for each of us here this morning is that God has chosen each one of us to reveal his love to the world. First of all, however, we need to believe in God, so that like my friend who was blind, believing we may see.